Good morning, everybody, or afternoon, whichever works for you. I am Kate with Archoral. I am the CEO and co-founder, and we're going to do a little talk today about being a profile and media-based application. So the reason why we created Archoral is because when you do your family history, the majority of the applications out there that allow you to curate what you find require that you build your family from the roots to the trunk, to the branches, to the leaves. And with us, we don't feel like that's how research works. That's not how you find your people. You find your people sporadically. You find information about them sporadically. And I wanted to be able to capture that as I came across it, be it just in my mom's memories, my memories, or within the photos and artifacts that I have for my family. Each one of those pieces coming one at a time starts to build out the story and allows me to do my own research as each one of those tidbits come in. So I'm going to share, and we're going to start with our dashboard. This is the dashboard for your catalog. What this is going to do is give you just a basic overview of what you have going on within your archive. So if you'll notice, we're not listed by trees, we're listed by person profiles, location profiles, a media section, of course, and then the address book for all of your connections and the people that are going to help you out. When it comes to person profiles, you can create them individually. When you do this, we give you a profile card. So it doesn't matter if they are a relative, a friend, a neighbor, they're all going to be able to be captured within their own essence. I don't know if you saw the waiting room screen, but this is our cute little Archoral AI family. We do that so that I don't have to use my own families and put my nieces and nephews' information out there. So we created our own little world. So the first person that we're going to explore is Caleb. In Caleb's profile, I have 3 tabs. We have facts, timeline, and media. In our facts tab, we have additional names. What I love about this is that when you're doing research, you come across a multitude of spellings for different names. Sometimes it's a transcription error. Sometimes it's just a weird name like mine that nobody knows how to spell. But it also holds maiden names, pen names, nicknames, married names, double-barreled names, a list that could go on and on and on. Whenever you see this blue P right here, this means that's your primary data. That is what is going to be used to display on that person's profile card. This little edit pencil right here allows you to change or add to that primary data that's in their card. One thing that I think is fun is we have a display name and a secondary name. So if you see over here, we have CJ underneath his profile picture, and then we have his full name, Caleb Anthony Johnson. This is very helpful when you are searching women that have a maiden name and a married name. People like to categorize them differently or remember them differently, depending on where in their life they met them. But this is also really, really helpful when you're dealing with aging family members, because you may say, Mama, do you remember Caleb? And she won't understand. But if you say, Mama, CJ, she may recognize. So you can switch in between these 2 names and keep all of the information intact. I got to move my little window. Keep all this information intact in your application and just move it around. So that's something that we love to be able to do, is look at your information from different standpoints. Our vital statistics permanent. You can just come in here and start typing and adding any information that you have. You don't have to have any media for it. It can just be the information that you know or the information that you're collecting from people. One of the things that's really effective with this is the timeline section. Here we believe that people are a whole lot more than birth, marriage, children, and death. There's hobbies and clubs and organizations and school proms and birthday parties, family vacations. Those are all the things that create the texture for what a person is, for who they are, for the time that they spend on this earth. So if you just come in here, you can do text entry and just start creating any timelines in any order that you have knowledge of. And that will automatically create a timeline entry. If you just come in and you start adding in your major life events and work your way through it, you can go back historically. Then as you find photos, documents, audio, or video that corresponds with these archives, you can drop them directly into it. Again, if you see this pencil icon here, if you open it, you see the main event details that you made. And down here at the bottom, we've got attached media. So go ahead and script out as much as you can think of for each person's life. Then you just drag and drop or upload from your computer, and it's automatically indexed and attached to that person's profile. So that's what we mean by profile-based, is we start our curation, we start our reminiscence from that person's profile and move into the media. So when you're organizing a collection or you come across certain groups of media, they're really easy to just drop right in. This is also a great way to start creating relationships. What I like to do is go from each person's individual profile and just build out their family first. Then you can build out some of the other distant relatives that you may not know the path to. And what about your friends, associates, neighbors, the fan club? Anyone that does genealogies heard of the fan club? Those are important people too. They help shape you. So when we add a relationship, we're going to add a related person. What that means is Caleb, we're on his profile, so he's our focus. And we're going to add a related person to him. So you start typing and it goes through all of the profiles that you already have. If the person you're looking for isn't there, you can add a new person. So here we get a twofer in one shot. We can create a profile and a relationship in the same entry flow. So you can backload from your quick create profile, or you can add them from anywhere in the system where there's that linking to a person. There will always be that add new. So you can add them as randomly as you find them. So remember, random's going to be the word for the day. Down here, we've got storytelling. A person doesn't necessarily have media to attach to points of their life, to things that are important or just reminiscing. So in our storytelling section, you can come up here and click Add Additional. When you do that, you can give it a caption, a little blurb about what you want. But then what's beautiful is you can record. So this not only gives you a recording of the speaker's voice, but it holds all of those vocal textures, if you know what I mean. It gives you your laugh, your giggle, your pauses. Everybody uses text message now, and we all know that context sometimes gets lost without vocal inflection. And having a recording of someone's voice is phenomenal. Down here, who's telling the story? Well, I may not be the one. Even though I'm the account holder, I may be sitting next to my mom and asking my mom to tell the story. So as long as my mom has a profile, it's going to do the same thing and allow me to search through profiles or add a new one. So you can interview anyone you want, neighbors, classmates, relatives, and just have them wax and wane about that person, that individual. Then when the recording is over, you can view the transcription. And this is very, very helpful for hard of hearing. But what it also does is it allows all of that transcribed information to become searchable. It's now searchable text that becomes a living part of your archive. It doesn't remain encapsulated in that audio format. So we have done all kinds of fun things when it comes to Caleb. We've been able to add in all the different parts of his life, all of the different growth and variables, and all of the things that he was associated with, as long as the people that he was associated with. Then if we go over here to the media tab, we're going to see all of the media that is attached to Caleb. So within all of those line entries in the facts and the timeline tab, we've attached media to it. Let me show you how that works. So let's go back to timeline, and we're going to look at this little icon right here. You can see that some of them are gray and some of them are blue. When they are blue, that means that there's media attached to it. The gray ones, we're just waiting on media, or we don't have any, and that's perfectly okay. So when we click this icon, it's going to open all of the media that is associated only with that particular line entry. Look at our little doggo go. He's fetching. So all of the media, regardless of where it's located within your collection and folder structure, as long as it's attached to this line item, it will open here. We're also going to separate it by photos, documents, video, and audio. And the reason why we do that is so that when you do a slideshow of your photos, you don't get distracted by all of those boring black and white documents. When you are exploring your videos, you can just reminisce over the motion and the sound and the mannerisms of the people that are in the videos without getting distracted by static photos or audio. So that's how we separate our media from the profile media indexer standpoint. So now we're making that turn. We're making the turn to the media side. From the media standpoint, you can start there and then build out your profiles, build out all of those timelines and fact items that we saw. So if you have a bulk amount of media that's attached to the wedding, I can collect those pieces. I can come up here and say quick index, which I'm going to bulk index these items. I do that, and I can go ahead and come in here and do event union ceremony and add in as much or as little information as I would like in this section. And what this also is doing, since we're profile based, is anytime I add a person, it is going to give me the same drop downs and the same ability to add a person in there. And what that's going to do is take this event information and go ahead and create that person timeline. It's going to go ahead and create and connect this media to that person. So it starts becoming a cyclical relationship. You can also do multiple people. So if I have multiple people that attended this, you go in and you just add a whole bunch of people, and then I don't have somebody for it. So I'm going to come down here and, oh, that's a really long list. And I'm going to add a new person. So from the media standpoint, you're organizing and connecting things back to your profiles, creating the timeline entries and all of those at the same time. So let's take a look at our collections. This to me is the heart and soul of how we organize our media. Everybody thinks differently, and that's perfectly fine. That's why we built so many different ways to connect and interact with Archoral. With our collections, what I prefer to do is do the collections by family branch. So if you think of a collection as your main folder header that contains a bunch of subfolders, when you're in a traditional file format, you can only open one of those folders at a time and explore the media inside of it one at a time. Well, to me, that wasn't interactive enough, because interactivity is what Archoral is founded on. When I have these separate collections by different branches, I can open them together. So let's say I want the Johnson family, and I want the memories from this one, and I want Caleb's running mates. I can open all three of those together by coming up here and going to the indexer. So now all media from those three collections will be opened together. So when I'm sitting with that family branch, I can start curating and collecting their memories without them being distracted by my husband's family branch, who they may not know or have memories about, depending on how long you've been married. I know there are a lot out there that have been intertwined for 40 years, and that's fantastic. That's what allows us to add in the pieces that we want. So let's say you made a mistake and opened one on accident. You just come on up here and you can close one of them one at a time. You can also add them back one at a time. So you don't have to go and start all over. You don't have to go back from the beginning and reopen what you're doing. So let's go back to our media page, to our collections. So in here, remember I said that this was like a hierarchy folder. So our collection, I like to look at it as a book on a shelf. Inside that book, you can have multiple folders. These folders are where you can really suss out and organize things the way that you are comfortable organizing them. Some people organize them by events. Some people organize them by, this is all the media that I collected from my mom's cell phone, and they just keep adding to those folders. Or this is all the media that is stored in small box 1, Oliger 5 in my archive that I've digitized. You can really suss these out however you would like, because opening them from the main collection gives you everything. The interior of those collections is just really a reference for you. So when we're in these folder collections, we can do the same thing. We can open two separate folders together and see that one. Those are individual media files. Here's your folder. If there were multiple folders, I could open them together in the indexer and just look at those variables. So when you're in these sections, this is also very helpful when you're going through and you're indexing, because you can do them a chunk at a time. You don't get lost in your big giant roll of all of the media that you just acquired. So when I click on one, it will open up the media that's within that folder. I can select all or do it from the folder level. I can quick index as well, so that I can just bulk say everything in this folder is Christmas 1983 at Lori's house, and these were the three main attendees. Just keep in mind that when you bulk index your media, the information that you have in those indexing sections gets distributed across all of them at one time. We're doing it in bulk. So if you have a few in here that you don't want to particularly add all of the information to, start at the high level. Start with what is the information that is consistent across all of your media. Then when you're in the indexer, you can do them one at a time and assign additional information just to the pieces individually. So now that we're in the media indexer, let's play there a little bit. So people can look at this and they can get a little overwhelmed. The thing that you have to remember is two very different women are building this application. I'm the one that is going to use every single field available to me in here because I want to curate everything. That's just in my makeup. Now, Laverne, my co-founder, she's a bigger fan of just dumping everything into a collection and working off of it as she goes. And that's perfectly fine because she likes to see her environment all in one. And when it comes to the indexing, she's going to tag some faces and add some basic information to get things organized. Perfectly okay. So when you're looking at things like vital records, let's say this was a document or the actual birth, our variables, that's where you can watch somebody grow back on the profile page. If we're going to look at our permanent, this was the birth and death information. that resonates back to the profile page. But where you can go a little bit deeper in here is we can do disposition, resting place, exhumation. Not a pretty topic, but it happens. So when you find a field that you have information for, you can capture it and it will become the source for that information. And it just goes on and on. You can explore these as deep as you like. That's part of the fun. The one thing I will note is in our event details, we have split out union ceremony from other events. We split this out because we are inclusive globally, culturally, socially. Not all societies consider a wedding to be a wedding. It can be a hand fasting. So here, whenever you're in the indexer and you see the phrase focus person, that is literally just the main person that you are associating this media with. Now, it could be your client, it could be your mom, it could be your neighbor. It's really just dependent upon that media. Then when you go to selecting an associated person with it, here what we use it is betrothed or union partner. But what I wanted to share with you is when you see this drop down that says make a selection, we have two options. We have person and we have type a name. The reason for that is person is going to give you that autofill drop down list of the profiles that you've created. This will link this media to that person's profile. Now, let's say that I just want to record that this is Bob that works at the grocery store. I love Bob. He's a great guy. He's always happy when I see him. So I want to preserve that he's part of my story, but I don't necessarily feel the need to create a profile that's going to carry all of the information for him. That situation is where I would choose type a name. So here I can put in Bob Grocery Buddy, and I've saved it, but I haven't created a profile that's going to curate information to it. When we have dates, let's take a look at our date. It's pretty fun. We have a date picker. If you click on the year, because one thing that drives me crazy is typing in 1886 via the little arrow button. I know that drives everybody crazy. So for us, you can just type in 1886. Oh, look at how easy that was. Your calendar will recenter to June of 1886. We're currently in June. That's why it defaulted there. I can pick a month. The calendar will recenter again, and then I can pick a date. But let's say I don't know the whole date. Well, your media comes to you in sporadic, unorganized, or unlabeled ways. So I can use unsure about the date. And what this allows me to do is say about, after, or before a particular year, a particular month, or a particular season. So you can use all or just one. So I'm going to say this picture right here looks like a nice summer season. So it's summertime. I'm going to look at the clothing and the barn and the things like that. And I'm going to say this is more than likely before 1900, just for giggles. Now I've selected a year and a season, but I didn't bother with the month because I don't know. I just know that it's summer. So when I submit, that's going to be my date range. This helps you start curating things back to those person profiles and making that cyclical relationship, because in that person's profile, the timeline will now have an event that was before 1900 in the summer with all of the event information that you've added to it. So we talked about gathering random information when you are in the profile view, how you can wax and wane all of your lovely stories about the people. Well, here we're media driven. It's been named photoreminiscence therapy for our aging community, which is just a beautiful way to stay engaged. But it's also a great way when you're just having coffee with your neighbor and you have a picture. You can pull it up on your phone, open it in the indexer, come down here to storytelling, and you've got the same options where you can click to record, put in here that it's your neighbor telling the story, and let them tell you, wax and wane, again, my favorite phrase, about the photo that they're looking at. Now you have a story connected to a piece of media. You can transcribe it. Then later when you get home, you can come down here into your indexer section and start capturing some of that information by copying and pasting it out of your transcription into your indexer headers to give more texture curated back to the person's profile. So we've got these coming soon indexers down here. These are very important because right now they are a notes field. So if you have information about any of these indexer headers, put it in the notes here. We are crafting all of these wonderful indexer fields, all of the segments for each one of these sections. And when they get released, we're going to give you a beautiful way to take your notes and put them into the indexer field. So you don't have to worry about losing any of that content. Capture it. And we're going to give you an amazing way to integrate it. Let's take a look at the kinds of things that are here. All right, so here's just kind of a high-level view of these sections. A dependent placement, that is your guardianship, your foster, you're moving through orphanages, things like that. It's the movement of a child through their life or an adult that's under guardianship. Your education history, we do everything from traditional schooling to certifications. A lot of people nowadays aren't going to a traditional school, they're getting certifications. That's important, it's part of their story. Employment history, we all have to have a job, so that's pretty self-explanatory. Servitude, this is a very unique section. Servitude is meant to harness anything that is Holocaust related, enslavement related, human trafficking, any kind of indentured servitude. You've got to remember that the fun things aren't what make up the entirety of a human being. A lot of times it's the struggles and the trials and the tribulations that we have journeyed through that make us who we are. So we wanted to make sure to hold those in note format until we can allow you to index them. Objects and items. Goodness gracious, I have a warehouse full of objects and items that I want to keep the stories for. Personal activities. These are your soccer matches, your bridge club, all those fun things you do with your friends. Pets and animals are family too, so we make sure to include them. Physical appearance. This is also one of my favorites. It's tattoos, piercings, and scars. People look at me a little funny when I say that. But how many of you have a grandfather that served in the war and came back with a military tattoo? Do you know the story of it? Do you know why he got it, who he was with, what was going on in his life when he got that tattoo? That's the kind of story that can be kept here. How about a scar? Big scar on the face. Why? What's the story behind it? There's a whole nother depth to that person that you can discover just by asking something that simple. Physical media is going to tell us its condition, what it is, where it came from. Political affiliation. There are families that have to do with politics all the way from the top of the food chain down to your local government. But it's also how you vote, what your political beliefs are, what places you're attached to. Religious affiliation, big person driver. Your source citations, your military history is very important when you've served. And travel and transport gives you some idea for migrations and things like that. So from the media standpoint, when you collect all of the random information that you find and put them in these little sections, what you're doing from the media standpoint is attaching that texture back to the people that you recorded in the event. So if I'm looking at Frederick Johann, his Easter celebration, the date of it, all of the people that attended, who the organizer was, the location of where it was. We've created a location profile, take note. And then any information that we put down here in these notes fields are going to connect. So let's look for Mueller. There you are, Friedrich. So in his timeline, here is that Easter celebration, what I've named it, the dates, the location that it was held at. And then if I come over here to this source icon, it's going to take me strictly to that media. So that's part of what creates that cyclical relationship within our archive. And remember how I said we created a location profile? Locations are important too. So in that Mueller Farmstead profile, if I look at their timeline, this is the particular Easter celebration. So the holiday Easter, the dates, the title, and the media are automatically connected there. You did it all from one index or entry. So that's how one piece of media started resonating throughout your profiles. So what we're going to do now is we are going to explore what the location profile does for you. People are very, very important in our lives. That is a given. They have an effect on other people. They also have an effect on their environment. But our environment has an effect on us too. Laverne hates it when I talk about back on the family farm. It drives her crazy because she's a city girl. She's a New York girl. Well, you know what? I don't want to hear about her rides on the subway either. And my point of that is that your environment shapes you. It's what's important to you. Your environment can shape your values and your everyday life as well as your future. They are just as important in the research of a family. So again, we've got tabs laid out the same way as a person profile. We're going to start with our facts tab. Location lineage. This is your ability to track it through either land deeds or family lore or just personal knowledge. And as you go through and you enter each one of these, you'll be able to see the journey of the property through its holdings. And here's a nice little icon that we haven't talked about yet, our verification ribbon. So when you're in a profile and you just start loading it with information, just capture everything that you can possibly think of, you may not know if it's right or it's wrong. It just may be family lore. So who knows? What our verification allows you to do is say, yes, I have done what I feel to be my due diligence, and I am verifying that Wilhelm Mueller purchased this property on August 1st, 1887. So I'm going to say yes. Now, this inheritance one, I'm not so sure about. So I'm not going to verify it just yet. I'm going to keep thinking about it. Now, if I find something that proves this correct, but this wrong, I just unverify. I just unclick it and keep working. Now, these icons are all the same across all of the profiles and all of the line items with your edit as well as your source. So we've talked about who owns it. Is it the bank or a person? So we go from there. Location address history is a very, very important piece when you're doing research or connecting correspondence to a location. When I grew up, I lived on Route 1, Box 1818. So everything from about 15 to younger that has to do with me or my family is going to be listed at that address. Then it changed over to 4260 River Road. Now I've got two addresses that I need to have stick themselves together, right? It's the same place. It's the same idea as when county borders are changed, state borders are changed, and country borders are changed. All of that matters. So when I've got those two addresses, I can come in here and let's add an additional. I may know the date, I may not. I can use that date picker that we looked at. So I'm going to say before 1980. I don't know any of the other stuff, so I'm going to submit it. And our address, this is what we call our address locator. And this is how you connect that vintage address with that current address. How I make Route 1 Box 1818 and 4260 live and work in the same environment. So if I don't know the current address, let's say I'm in the indexer and I'm trying to do correspondence, I can come in here to the vintage address and I can say Route 1 Box 1818, Colusa, California. And then I can come over here and I can go, oh my goodness, I got a pan. I can come up here. It's somewhere in here. So I'm going to come to Sacramento and I'm going to find Colusa and I'm going to drop myself a pin because I don't know the exact address, but I know the general vicinity. And I can attach media, remember? Profile to media, media to profile. I can attach that here and it will become a new line item. Now let's look at it from a different standpoint. We're going to start this fresh. I'm going to do add additional. And I'm going to go straight to the address and I'm in the current address section. This is where I'm going to type the 4260. River Road. We are connected to Google Maps, so it's going to find. There we go, right there. And it's going to automatically drop a pin where it is. And I'm going to hit submit. This is going to give me that entry right there connected. Let's take a look at location modifications. When you're going through photos and you're going through videos and documents and you start seeing things change, that house didn't have a chimney on it before. That's new construction or a remodel. When was the barn built? May give you a little bit more information about who owned it then, what the journey of that land was, because the land's journey is the people's journey. This is where we can do the location type. Every piece of property on this planet started as open field. Then it may have become a homestead. Then it may have become a farm. Then it may have become a corporate farm. Then it may have been completely bulldozed and turned into a subdivision with a Starbucks. You never know. But the journey of that is the journey of the people. So that's where we can curate all of that. All right. So let's take a look at the timeline. This is what we looked at earlier, where we added the Easter celebration. So remember, it didn't matter if we added the Easter celebration into the person profile and gave it some information, the media indexer gave it some information, or the location and gave it information. As long as we're connecting it to other profiles, it's automatically going to live like this. So if you know information about a location, you can come in here and do the same thing you did with the person and just enter information however you find it. So if you're sitting with a client and you're saying, what are your milestones? Or you're sitting with your mom and you're saying, what are your milestones? It all works the same. So we had relationships in the profiles. Relationships are a little bit different when it comes between people and dirt. Let's just be honest. So here we have all of the linked profiles and their roles. So if you can see, Anna Mueller was an attendee to an event. Here, Carl was an attendee, but he was also born at this location. Heinrich was an attendee at an event. He passed away at this location, but he's also listed as the property owner for a certain period of time. So if you think back to those pieces of media that you have, Every time you are adding or finding that sporadic piece of information, every time you're coming across something new, you add it in however you find it, and Archoral curates it back. So I may have found information on Heinrich. He has these 3 points. I may have found those 3 points 3 years apart. It doesn't matter. We're going to pull it all together for you. And I can guarantee you that this lady that was born in 1980, her media came to me a little bit differently than the media from the guy born in 1815. So this gives you an idea of not just people's relationships to a particular location, but it gives you a community. You start to see the people that you may want to look at a little bit more. You may want to explore when you start getting, hey, this guy has 3 points of attachment to this, and I hadn't come across him. He was just in some media loss down there. I'm going to explore him. So it's a thought provoker as well, because you start seeing, if this were a church, all of the congregates that were there, you start seeing people's environments. We also have our standard media tab, which again curates all media from all the way through. The one thing we haven't talked about is these cute little things up here. So these are our counts. In this particular profile, I have 8 photos, 2 documents. I have no videos and no audio. But let's say I only want to look at the documents and I've got 10,000 pieces of media attached to this profile. I don't want to scroll. I don't know which line item they're attached to. I just want to look at the documents. These are clickable. So I can click it and it gives me just the documents. Look at that. I can click it and it will give me just the photos. It's the same theory in the indexer when we had them separated by tabs. It's the same process here, so you can explore. And then there's our Maps tab, our little Google Map friend, and it works the same way as Google Maps. You can zoom, you can satellite view, you can explore around it. And this is really great for understanding the terrain and the surrounding areas for locations that you're doing research for, or if it's a vintage one that you're trying to figure out. You can come in here and you can kind of move around and go, I think it might be over here, and adjust it. So this is about as much talking as I can do in one webinar. Well, stay tuned for our future webinars. Thank you so much for joining. Happy archiving. Have a great day.